Today's video is going to be a little bit distressing. We're going to look at the Granville Rail Disaster from the 18th of January 1977 over in Australia and see what happened.
There's been a bit of a problem at Granville Station. Lloyd, what's the problem here?
Well, what we know so far is that a rail bridge, a train bridge at Granville has collapsed. We believe 3 people have been hurt. The police rescue squad are on the way. That's all we know at the moment.
One of those days, huh?
Or it seems like they're having the traffic news on the radio, and they've obviously mentioned what they didn't realise was as such a disaster as it was. But how light-hearted he finished that sentence. Oh, it's just one of those days, isn't it? That seems a little bit off now, doesn't it, when you know that it's a disaster.
Meantime, extensive delays at
There's just bodies everywhere. Everywhere. I thought it was just the carriage under the bridge at first, but then I had a look on the other side of the bridge at the locomotive's on its side, and one carriage, all you can see is the floor of it. It's on its side. It's had the top ripped off it. The others have jackknifed into it. It's just dreadful.
Hey, ma'am, have you got somebody in there? I think so. Can I go and see? Can I go and see?
What makes you think there's somebody in there?
Well, it's the 8 o'clock train from Parramatta.
Yeah.
She always gets that train.
Who's that?
Jenny.
Your daughter?
Yes, and she hasn't arrived at work. I can't go down there.
All my years as a journalist, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. The carriage, from its normal height, has been compressed to a couple of metres thick.
It compressed to a couple of metres thick.
Yes, it's just an absolute mess.
It's come straight down on a carriage here. Most of the carriage is underneath the bridge here.
The news in brief, read by John Logan. An overhead road bridge has collapsed on an interurban train in Sydney's western suburbs, and as many as 200 people could be trapped. The Public Transport Commission said a short while ago the locomotive and one carriage is on its side.
Oh, wow. So the bridge going over the railway line has just collapsed. You saw at the start that there was a car. Now, I don't know if the train was moving or the train was stationary. It certainly would have been worse if it was moving, you would have thought, with the bridge coming down and the movement at once. Wow. What horrific scenes. And to hear some of the telephone calls, so the mum calling about her daughter who was on her way to work. This is what is awful about these situations, whether it's the Granville Rail Disaster, whether it is the 2 towers, the London bombings, the Manchester Arena bombings recently. You know, people are going about their everyday lives, whether it's going to work, whether it's going to a concert, whether it's being at work, for example. It's what is so awful about these situations is that it's come out of nowhere. You know, it's not like people are purposely endangering their lives. It is a split second and it's all over. And by the sounds of it and by the audio you can hear, this has shook people.
And another 2 carriages are trapped under the wreckage of the bridge. The accident occurred on the Bold Street overpass at Granville and involved the 6 train from Mount Victoria in the Blue Mountains. Gas is escaping from ruptured mains and electrical power lines have been brought down. Some injured have already been taken to Parramatta Hospital. All available police and ambulance personnel are on the scene. More details as they come to hand.
Well, it's really pathetic here at the moment. There are relatives starting to arrive from up the line and from down the line. Many of them are just completely hysterical. I saw one lady, tears streaming from her eyes, ran up to a badly injured person on a stretcher and just pulling his arm and saying, "What time did it leave? What time did it leave?"
Front carriage, were you? Yeah, the front carriage. I was underneath the seat, and I must have been knocked out for a second. I don't think I sustained any injuries because it was covered in blood. What happened? I pulled somebody out. I don't know, the 2 people in front of me, one bloke had his ear off and he was in bad shape.
And it's now 8 minutes to 10. I'd like to tell you once again that the Blood Transfusion Service in Sydney has made an urgent appeal for donors of all types of blood. I repeat that, all types of blood.
What's incredible is how many emergency services are there There are so many vehicles there for emergency services, and that shows how bad it was. I just, things like this are horrendous. And especially seeing the old footage as well from 1977. You know, it's in like a red colour, and it's not exactly crystal clear, but it's almost adding to the effect of how much of a disaster it was. But I want to know why. I really want to know why that bridge collapsed.
And I was there a little before 9 o'clock. There was this great scene, and I could see straight away how bad it was from the air. This gave me a pretty good picture of it, really. But before I'd arrived, almost all of the rescue squad had arrived. The whole squad was there and in action, and I just had time to see them and say, what a frightful mess this is. I remember asking, were there any alive? And there were people coming from everywhere. Once they told me there were live people there, and some of the rescue squad were already burrowing down underneath the main slab, cutting their way in with their equipment. Some of them were under there. They don't stand waiting for instructions. The first one there, if he can, he'd start to work to save lives. They're all conscious of getting people out quickly. That's the name of the game. They're all very brave people, and they've all been in very dicey situations. I couldn't believe there'd be anybody alive underneath. And then I went in underneath and found this hell on earth. The slab had come down, and the people were crushed down to within about, at that stage, about 14 inches of the deck of the carriage. And I came upon Bill Fay halfway down the train with that girl, and what had happened was, as they were crawling through, they thought nobody was alive there. She said, I'm alive, and smiled. And they took 9 hours to cut her in. But I had a bit of a look around and still couldn't find Joe Beecroft. He's the chief of the rescue squad. I don't know, he must be a rabbit. He actually got underneath the train and up underneath where the slab abutted to the ground, and I reckon there was about 6 inches round there. And a doctor got through with him too. And they found the man there alive, and they took several hours, about 6 hours, to get him out, and he's quite all right. And then we got this bloody gas. Every one of these particular trains carries 2 bottles of LP gas because they go up the mountains. And this was to have a tremendous effect on me. If I use an oxy torch, it's bang on that I'll start a fire. And that really, that to me, grabbed me in a great sense of frustration. So everything had to be cut with carborundum saws, and we were 9 hours cutting this.
Wow. So basically, these trains, because they had to go up into the mountains, they carried extra gas. So the process of rescuing people took even longer because you can't use anything that's going to set the gas off. So everything was slower. Wow, incredible commentary from that gentleman. But what I would assume is the trains, yes, I would assume they're made out of steel, but if you've been on old carriages, yes, the outside is steel, like a single layer, but pretty much everything else is wood. And if you've got that huge, heavy concrete bridge coming down on it, surely that just absolutely crippled it. Horrendous sights. And I think when you get things like this, you must learn from them.
Then the slab came down. The slab shifted down 2 inches, even while our fellows were wedged in there, pinning 2 of our rescuers and crushing one of our porta power outfits like butter. And this is when one of the doctors wanted one of our fellows to leave. He wouldn't leave, and neither would the doctor, because we got a few surprises. People speaking to us that later died, and an old fellow that said, don't worry any more about me. He said, I'm done for. He said, you rescue the young people. Imagine that, he died. So I couldn't use oxy, and then I started to think, well, the only way is to cut it up with jackhammers and lift it out by slabs. And the moment we did that, we could knock this side of the bridge down.
It's tough viewing, really is. I'm still amazed how many people were there trying to save people, trying to get the bridge off the train.
Unless you are in the operation, move right away.
Here is the national news from the ABC, read by Jeff Soper. Police have put the death toll in the Granville train disaster at 80. 43 men were killed, 36 women and 1 female child. A total of 83 people were injured, some seriously. At this stage, police have released 31 of the names of those killed. Rescue workers at the crash site this afternoon removed the 80th body from the wreckage. Workmen are now attempting to clear the railway line, and one track is expected to be open by tomorrow night. An ABC reporter at Granville, Bob Worth, said that when the last body was dragged from the wreckage about 4 o'clock this afternoon, an air of calm settled on the scene. The cranes and compressors used to lift the concrete bridge support from the wreckage stopped, and several hundred policemen formed up alongside the railway line in neat rows in the hot sun.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say, how incredible is it that we're able to see this sort of footage from so long ago? And this is only 1977. For some people, this doesn't seem that long ago. But even footage from earlier than this, isn't it incredible that being able to put it on YouTube, for example, allows so many people to see things like this? So, for example, I'm born in 1990. I wouldn't have a clue about something like this. And so the ability that I've got now to watch this sort of footage, yes, it is horrendous and it's harrowing, and it certainly puts life into perspective. You know, make the most of it, because you don't know when it's going to go.
The Granville death toll rose to 82 today, with the deaths of 2 more victims in hospital.
Well, that was the Granville Rail Disaster of January the 18th, 1977. It's just harrowing, isn't it? And I think what is actually the most upsetting thing is that it's all over so quickly. In that you are going to work, you are on your daily commute, and it's all over. That is what's awful about these disasters, isn't it? You know, it's that it's never expected. It's something that just pure accident, or that just slight fault in a bit of equipment, or in this case, maybe a slight fault in the structure of the bridge, and it's fine for a long time, and then all of a sudden, gone. That is what is awful about this sort of situation, these sort of disasters. You know, people are unaware, and it just happens, and people are lost way too early. Awful, awful scenes, but incredible that this footage is there, and incredible how calm the workers are trying to save people. You know, you listen to the commentary in the middle of this video explaining what was happening, and it was so calm. Just crazy scenes. I don't know what else to say because it was really tough viewing. But thank you so much for watching. These are the things we've got to learn from, and hope they don't happen again. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time.